Zito. Today I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, in Federal Hill at Antonelli's Poultry Company with a few of my friends. I want to make my grandmother's famous chicken and wine recipe. And over the years, in fact, through most of my adult life, I have tried to recreate this recipe. And I must tell you, with limited success. But today, I'm going to get myself the very freshest chicken I can find. And I know that I'm going to be able to recreate that recipe just the way Nonna made it. Emilio, ciao.
Hi, Marianne. Welcome to Emilio.
Oh.
How are you? How's
fine.
it going?
Good, good.
Boy, let's go. Boy, where have you been?
What I'm saying is that you can use just about anything that you have in the fridge. I want to make my grandmother's chicken in wine dish.
I have a clove of garlic. Whoops, I think I went over the top with that one.
Ciao.
Major funding for Ciao Italia is made possible by a grant from King Arthur Flour, distributors of unbleached, all-purpose flour. King Arthur Flour, dedicated to the pure joy of baking for 200 years. With additional funding from Orthopedic and Trauma Surgeons Professional Association, providing musculoskeletal care for Southern New Hampshire and Maine.
Ciao, Cristoforo.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are
Great.
you?
Very good.
Chris, I see you're at your favorite job.
Chicken. My
Chicken.
job.
Well, you know, don't knock it because my grandmother was a butcher.
Is that right?
Yeah, and she killed chickens in the basement. And I used to run the other way. But I'll tell you, thinking about Grandma reminds me of a recipe that I want to make called Nonna's Chicken and Wine.
Nonna.
Yeah, Nonna. You know, that's the
Nonni.
word.
Nonni.
Nonna.
Nonni.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nonna.
Nonna. Well, my grandmother was Nonni. but go
Whatever.
ahead.
I want to create a recipe of hers, and I need a fresh bird. These
You're
look
not
pretty
going to find
good.
much fresher than this one.
These look pretty good. Are these fresh?
Yep.
How fresh are they?
About an hour ago, we killed them and cleaned them.
So still talking an hour ago.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Well, you know, for this recipe, you really have to use tender chicken, young chicken. So I
That's
don't.
what that is. That's a spring.
All right,
Okay.
I believe you. I don't
There's
want a tough old bird.
Well, you-
Now, listen, you know what I need for this? The chicken has to be cut in very small pieces, and every piece,
Kind of the cacciatore style. you mean,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
small.
yeah.
No problem.
but every piece has to have a bone in it. That's the trick.
I think we
That's
can do
the
that.
secret.
Yeah.
And listen, you see these cute little feet?
Uh-huh.
I want those for soup. And
Grandmother taught you that.
hey,
figured.
what can I say? She was a smart butcher. A little bigger than you, but she was still very smart when it came to chickens.
No problem. You want the head?
Yeah, I'd like that for soup.
Okay.
So give me 12 nice pieces, cut small, with a little bone in each one, and save me the head and the feet. And I'll be
Good
back
enough.
later to check up on your work.
Okay.
And I'll see you nella cucina, where I'm going to attempt to recreate Nonna's chicken in wine. Every 4th of July, when I was a kid, I'd climb the cherry tree in Nonna Saporito's backyard to pick cherries just like these. And there was no mystery as to what to do with them. You just popped them into your mouth, one after another. But today, I'm at wit's end because I want to make my grandmother's chicken in wine dish. And I'll tell you, I haven't got a clue what to do with this. I remember as a kid making that drive to Batavia almost every other weekend, and chicken and wine was the standard fare for Sunday dinner. And I remember the smells, and I remember how good it tasted. But I didn't remember to ever ask her to tell me how she made it. And I'm really sorry about that, because over the years, I've tried to recreate this dish. And today, I'm going to try it one more time. And you've got to start with fresh chicken. You know, Grandma Saporito was a butcher, and she knew how to handle chicken. And she started with young chicken that she killed herself in the basement. Well, I've got some pretty young chicken here, and I remember her telling me that the chicken had to be small pieces of chicken. So I think that goes back to the depression that she lived through, and there was just not enough food to go around, and so everything was cut small to make do. So I want to do this as authentic as possible. So I've got some chicken here, and I'm just going to give it a couple good whacks so I can get it into small pieces the way Grandma had it. And then I remember she would take those and she would wash and dry them, so now she could get flour around the chicken pieces. But after that, I'm not so sure what she did, so you're going to have to bear with me because we're going to wing it the rest of the time. So here's my fresh chicken, and the first thing I want to do is dry it off a little bit. And really at home, when I do this, I always wash the chicken first, and I've washed this ahead of time just to save some time here. So you want to make sure that when you're dealing with chicken that you've washed it and dried it, and then after you've finished working with chicken, you've got to wash your hands. So there are my chicken pieces, and then you want to have ready some flour because you're simply going to coat the chicken lightly with flour, and here I have just some unbleached flour on a plate, and to that I know she added some coarse black pepper. So coarse black pepper goes on the flour. And of course, she always cooked with salt. So some salt goes into the flour. And then you just mix that up, and that's your seasoned flour mix. And I'm using flour because then I know she must have done this. Just coat the chicken lightly, you see, because when I ate this, that wine was just stuck to the chicken, and something had to bind those juices together, and it had to be flour. I mean, this recipe, coming down to it, is really like detective work. So in go a few more pieces of chicken for you. I'm being a little messy here, but that's no fault of anyone's when you're working with flour. So I'm not going to do all these pieces, maybe just one more. And I remember that when we went to dinner, there were always 16 or 17 pieces of chicken cut small on a big plate. So now what am I going to do with this? Well, I really don't know, but I'm going to start with some olive oil because I know she would have. So in goes some olive oil. Oh, about, I don't know, a tablespoon, tablespoon and a half. And then butter. Now, this is really strange because Grandma was a Southern Italian, and they cooked with olive oil for the most part, not butter. But I think she used the butter to get that real glazy look to the onions and finally the chicken. So I've got my combo olive oil and butter in here, and then to that I'm going to add some garlic because I know without a doubt that she cooked with garlic. So that's going to go in, and I'm just going to flavor this until the garlic is soft. And when it's soft, then I'm going to add red sweet onions. I know this for a fact because I remember those red sweet onions. I don't remember much else, but this I do remember. So in go some red sweet onions. Oh, about 1/4 cup, I think, but I'm not sure. So that goes in, and you just, I think, want to get those wilted down a little bit. I sure wish I had this recipe. And then to that, I'm going to add some white onion because this, I remember, was really permeated with an onion wine taste. And I want to get as close to this as I possibly can. So I'm going to put some of that in and turn this up just a little bit. And you want to get this soft. And when it's soft, then you want to take it out. And I need to get a pot holder, so hold on, because we're not finished yet. So I think that looks pretty good. Give yourself a little more time than I'm doing here. But I would say, about 5 or 6 minutes to wilt this all down. And then take it out. I'm going to put it right there into a bowl, and that's a heavy pan, and bring this back on the flame. Now, I'm not sure about this part, and I even called Aunt Phoebe, who lived with Grandma for 40 years, and she didn't have a clue how to do this either. What can I say? In goes a little more olive oil now, because we're going to brown the chicken now. So I'm going to turn my flame up a little bit here and swirl this around a little bit and put my chicken pieces in. And I really just want to brown these. So in they go, a few that I have floured for you. And you don't want to crowd the pan with chicken. You just want to put in enough so that you have room to turn the chicken pieces around. So you want to get this going and brown it. And that's going to take you probably, a good 5 minutes, I would say. So let it brown on one side and then turn it over and brown it on the other. And then when it's browned, I think she added vinegar, because I remember there was a ting that I couldn't quite place my finger on. But I decided, well, maybe a splash of vinegar would do it. So red wine vinegar. I know that she made it from old wine that she had in the basement, and it may have been a little bit stronger than what I'm using. But anyway, I think vinegar may have been part of this recipe. So when the chicken is browned on one side, and I'm just speeding this up for you a little bit here today, turn it over and brown it on the other side, and then give it some more, of course, black pepper and a little sprinkling of salt. And then, after it's browned, that's when you want to add the splash of white wine, or this is red wine vinegar. If you have white wine, you could use that too. So in that goes, and just let that sizzle with the chicken. Oh, probably, I don't know, a couple tablespoons should do it. And that flavors that nicely. And then when most of that is evaporated, then you want to add the wine. And here I haven't got a clue, because I think she used Grandpa's wine, because Grandpa did make wine, and he kept it in a jug just like this. And so she used any kind of wine that happened to be around, whether Grandpa made a good wine or whether he made a bad wine. So about a cup of wine went into the pot. I know that. At least a cup, because that chicken really had a winey taste. And this gets cooked down into the wine a little bit, about 10, 15 minutes. And then afterwards, you want to add back those onions and that garlic back into the pot and cook that with the chicken. And then, as the wine cooks down, you want to add more wine, probably another cup or so, because now the wine is going to evaporate and start clinging to the chicken, and it's going to make a thick sauce, something like what I've got here. Now here we are at the glaze stage, and this is why I said I think I needed to add butter, because you see how nicely the onions have cooked down and the wine has cooked down. Now this is just after a cup of wine has been added to this. So I need to add more wine to that one. So more wine goes into this, another cup or so, and you allow that to cook until it's nice and brown. And I've made some ahead just so you could see what I think this is supposed to look like. So come on over here to the oven with me. And in here, I've got some chicken that's already finished. But you know, now that's pretty dark, and that does remind me a lot of what Nonna made, but it still isn't nearly as dark as hers. But I'm sure it's still going to taste good. So you've got to cook this chicken down for a while. I would say probably about 45 minutes. So that's how I think Nonna's chicken was made, but I can't be sure. And so the next time you're with your Nonna and you love what she's making, please ask her to write it down. Well, chicken is only one thing that Grandma served when we came as Sunday guests. And with that, she loved to make a zucchini dish for us. And so I want to move some of this stuff out of the way so I can show you what it is that she made. So just let me make some room here. And I'm going to turn my chicken pieces down now, and it's smelling really good. Just put that way down while I'm talking to you about this other recipe. And this starts with le zucche, or zucchini in Italian. And here I have several kinds of zucchini. These that we're all familiar with, the green that I grew in my garden, and this also, that's another type, a yellow zucchini from the garden. And this one is an Italian variety that they grow in Italy. So, okay, you don't need to have a garden for this because everybody has a friend who has a garden that grows zucchini, and by mid-August, they're ready to nuke the zook. So, what are you going to do with this? Well, Grandma was very clever. So, she would start with some, let me move this out of the way here, some diced zucchini. And here I have some diced. And she'd also have some breadcrumbs ready. And again, those red sweet peppers. And always there was provolone cheese, that sharp sheep's milk cheese that she often served. And when she had little bits and pieces left over, well, she put it into something. So, and then she had some parsley and an egg maybe to bind this all together. And what did she do with this? Well, I need another frying pan. So I'm going to have to move this one out of the way and put this in here. We have to improvise this afternoon. I'm sure Grandma only had 2 frying pans to use too. So up the heat I'm going to turn, and in here I'm going to add some more olive oil. So olive oil into the pan. Oh, about a tablespoon and a half. And then to that, some garlic. And, of course, those red sweet onions. I don't know, a handful, I guess. This is one of those recipes from the mind again. And so that gets all sauteed nicely. And when that gets soft, then you can add the zucchini. And here I have, about 2 cups worth of zucchini, both the yellow and the green. And I'm going to put that in. And you just want to saute that until it's soft. Let me put this over to the side here. And this you want to get, not super mushy, but just until it has a little bit of a crunch left to it, because you're still going to bake this, you see, in the oven. So now while that's cooking, I want to add a little salt and pepper to it just to flavor it. So some more of that coarse pepper goes in, and also some more salt. So mix that around, and then while that's cooking, let me show you what she'd put those in. Here we are, zucchini blossoms. And these are the blossoms that come off the male plant, because the male does not make the fruit. It's the female flower that bears the fruit, and you have both on a zucchini plant. So you want to just use the male ones, otherwise you won't have any zucchini. So let me just give this another good stir here. And what you have to do is inside, you have to take out that pistil. So you just want to gently yank it out. And there it is. And you have to do that for every one. And then you probably can guess what happens. Grandma was very clever. She filled the blossoms with the mixture. So let me just move this out of the way for a second because I need some more room, and bring my bowl back over and put my filling back in here. Okay, that's good. And let me turn this off now, because we're done with that. Now, to this, we have to add our egg, because that's what's going to bind this together. So there's one egg beaten, and some fresh parsley. So in that goes, I don't know, a tablespoon and a half, and some fresh breadcrumbs, another couple tablespoons, and then some provolone cheese. I didn't put a lot of salt in here because, of course, the provolone is salty by itself. So then, getting a clean spoon, you want to mix that all up. Now, doesn't that look good already? And this is what goes into the zucchini blossoms. And you know, in a lot of different regions of Italy, they take just the zucchini blossoms and they fry them in a batter and just eat them like that. But here, we're going to be stuffing them. So let me do a couple of these for you. And here's that one that I took the pistil out of. Oh, no, I didn't. Here's another one. Let me take that out again. There's that pistil that I took out. And now you got to use your fingers for this, because this is a messy job, and you just want to pick some up, you see, and stuff it right into the cavity of the flour and bring the tops right over like that. And let me get a dish to put these on for you, just so that you can see that, and I'll make a couple more. So there's one, and you want to use fairly large blossoms now. So now there's another one I took the pistil out of, and I'm going to take a little bit more of this mixture and put it in and fold over the top. And sometimes you can put toothpicks in the top to hold these together. But isn't this a really novel idea? And this looks really great with that country chicken dish I just told you about. So go on and fill them like that. In just a second, because I've got to wash my hands now so I can show you what those look like. So when you've got as many filled, and you probably want 2 of those per person, you'll put them in a buttered baking dish, and they look something like this. You see, here are some that I stuffed earlier for you. And then I simply poured some melted butter over the top and added more breadcrumbs. So melted butter goes over the top, and if you want, you can sprinkle on more fresh breadcrumbs. And now these get baked in the oven, covered in foil. Oh, I would say for about 20 minutes at 350. So I'm going to cover these over here and put them in a 350 oven. I can take my, ooh, that's hot, my chicken out, because I want to garnish that. And in goes my stuffed zucchini blossoms. So there, Grandma certainly was a busy bee in the kitchen, and she knew how to make every little morsel of food count. And I just wish that I had taken the time to talk to her more about all the wonderful things that she was able to create. Ricordate, amici, remember to make Nonna's chicken in wine. Use a whole chicken that you've cut into very small pieces. Then wash and dry the chicken and dredge each piece in flour that you've seasoned with a little bit of coarse black pepper and salt. Then heat some butter and olive oil in a frying pan and add onion and garlic and cook them until they're soft. Then pour them out into a bowl, and in the same skillet, put your chicken pieces and begin to brown them. As they brown, add a splash of red wine vinegar and then some red wine, and cook about 20 minutes. Then put the onions and garlic back into the skillet. Add more red wine and cook until the chicken darkens. Then serve with the juices from the frying pan. Nonna Saporito was very clever using those zucchini blossoms to stuff her zucchini into. But if you don't have access to zucchini blossoms, either from a friend's garden or from a garden center, then why don't you do this? Just take a raw zucchini and hollow out the inside and make the stuffing like I suggested, and then just fill the zucchini boat and cook it in the oven the way I cooked the blossoms. And so, to make our fiore di zucchini, you will use, first of all, the flowers that you've removed the pistil and the stem from, and then dry them and set them aside. Then you want to soften some minced garlic and sweet onions in olive oil, and then add diced zucchini until it's soft but not mushy. Then remove the vegetables to a bowl and mix with breadcrumbs, some provolone cheese, a beaten egg, salt and pepper, and some fresh basil or parsley if you like. Then, if you're using the blossoms, stuff each blossom with the filling and place them in a buttered casserole. Drizzle with some melted butter and top with breadcrumbs and bake in the oven until heated through. And now, Sunday dinner at Nona's house, the way I remember it, starting with chicken in wine that we cooked with those red onions and laced with some wine vinegar, and then those stuffed zucchini blossoms. Clever my Nona was. And then what would she have to go with these things? Well, a simple cauliflower salad like this one that's been marinated in a little olive oil and wine vinegar and has some sweet red peppers and tiny capers and bitter olives. And then just some crusty bread and a glass of wine. And then, for dessert, we usually had fresh fruit. And if it was summertime, we always had sweet cherries from Nona's tree. So, Nona, thanks for the memories. Ciao.
To find out how to receive a pamphlet with today's recipes, please stay tuned. Major funding for Ciao Italia is made possible by a grant from King Arthur Flour, distributors of stone ground whole wheat flour. King Arthur Flour, dedicated to the pure joy of baking for 200 years. With additional funding from Orthopedic and Trauma Surgeons Professional Association, providing musculoskeletal care for Southern New Hampshire and Maine. For a 4-page pamphlet with the recipes in today's program, send $1 and a self-addressed stamped envelope to Italian Recipes, show number 6, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007. That's 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007. Be sure to specify show number 6.
Another half hour of Ciao Italia awaits you. Fruit of the Sea, Frutta di Mare. More Italian cooking with Marianne Esposito, followed by Louisiana Cookin' Homegrown today at 2, and more cooking shows continuing until 5 o'clock this Saturday afternoon. This Saturday night, curtain goes up on American Playhouse, A Raisin in the Sun. Esther Roll and Danny Glover star in this play by Lorraine Hansberry about a working-class black family living in Chicago's South Side in the early 1950s. The American dream is within her grasp when she receives her husband's $10,000 insurance annuity. The story of this widowed matriarch on A Raisin in the Sun on American Playhouse, 6 o'clock Saturday night. Followed by great performances, a tribute to Dance in America and the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater, with choreography inspired by the work of the late Charlie Parker, For Bird with Love, with an electronic score by Robert Ruggieri. Then at 10 on American Masters, we'll celebrate Bird, the triumph of Charlie Parker, and the story of one of the great innovators of jazz. Then at 11, Raising a Song with Bernice Johnson Reagan, one of the founders of the a cappella group Sweet Honey in the Rock.